gentlemen, the future.
In my opinion, it can be very challenging to design a paint scheme for NASCAR around Red Bull. And I don't even think the Formula One design nailed it until the most recent era of this sleek modern design here. So why is that? Well, the main thing that makes the Red Bull brand so challenging is the shape of the logo and the colors. So this weird shaped bull that you have to fit on this orthogonal race car, that's the first challenge. And the second challenge is you have these bright in-your-face yellow and red up against that cool dark blue. And so how do you marry those in a satisfying way? Well, I think the F1 car has an advantage over NASCAR. And the reason is, in all design, you create interest with contrast, right? Contrast is when your eyeball sees something interesting, and if it does that in a pleasing way, then that's when you know that a design looks good. And so what's the contrast, how do you create contrast with a NASCAR paint scheme? You do it with shape and with color. And you can see, like on these examples, you have these swoosh shapes and then different colors on the car. The F1 car has like a different dimension of contrast in the geometry. It's very unique in that sense. Comparing these two cars, it's just a very standard car where the front of the car leads into the hood, leads into the windshield, leads into the roof, and then like the side leads into like the A pillar and just leads all the way back. The F1 car has many areas of discontinuity. The front wing is like separate from the rest of the car. The wheels are kind of in their own land, and you have this rear wing sticking up made up of like 3 to 70 different shapes. But even with all these discontinuities, there are continuities. Even though you have all these separation points, you also have this nice continuous starting from the nose. Your eyeball follows the shape of the nose, and it hits, in the Red Bull paint scheme, it hits this line right here, and then your eyeball follows the line, it guides you, it navigates you through those curves of the unique F1 body, and then it just guides you towards where the tail light ends up. And so, whereas NASCAR has, again, color and shape to create contrast, F1 can really take advantage of the car's geometry. The discontinuity versus the continuity creates an extra element of contrast. So just keep that in the back of your brain for a second. We'll come back to that. And we're going to go to, I tried making a Red Bull paint scheme for a stock car. And what I was just looking around at stuff, I eventually came across this, which I thought was perfect. So there's a trend recently of forward number placement. The reason there's a trend for that is because it gives more room for the logo text to really stand out, it can be really big and visible, and there's plenty of space with it when the number is pushed forward. And that's the idea that this paint scheme kind of does. The Red Bull text is nice and big and visible, and you have the logo right here, plenty of room for the logo. And I wanted to do something ambitious in my paint scheme, which was to find a pleasant way to put the number inside of the yellow Red Bull sun. See that sun behind the bull, that circle behind the bull? I wanted to put the number inside of that. I thought that would look really sleek, really modern, but it's challenging because you can see, obviously, in this paint scheme, the sun is a pretty small area. In NASCAR, the number is like the center, the star of the branding. You want the number to be very prevalent, and I've made paint schemes before with a small number, but I have still made sure to make the number still stand out, and that's the really tricky balance you have to play when you're trying to do something experimental like this. And so here's my first crack at the design. So we have the large text here, we have the Bull logo, and we have the number inside of the sun. So the main problem here is the problem I was fearing. The number isn't as prevalent as I'd like it to be. And I think the reason why, in my opinion anyway, is so you have this giant Red Bull red text here, and it's just really large, and when you have the large Bull logo right next to the number, I guess it's just as simple as that. You have large elements next to the small number, and it kind of gets lost. The number gets lost in the design. And so I was really struggling. I was struggling for a long time because I really liked this this arrangement, but there was just something off that I needed to fix. I didn't know how to fix. I was trying several different things, and so eventually I said, my favorite part of the paint scheme is the large Red Bull text. And so what if I just completely subverted that? And that's something you have to do when designing sometimes. You just subvert your expectations, take your favorite element of the design and just punch it in the face. And that's what I did, and and here it is. Yes, right away, very loud design. Now, very chaotic. And what was the point of this? Well, in a contradictory way, the giant Red Bull text, in my opinion, is a little more subdued in the design because it is covered up by things, and because you see it as a background element now that it's so ginormous. And this also kind of goes through a design philosophy that, like, you don't have to actually be able to read the words, because you got so many iconic things, like the font of Red Bull is very iconic, and the logo, of course. You have so many recognizable things that they don't have to be perfectly recognizable, because you're already a multi-billion-dollar company with that brand recognition. One example I've seen in actual real-life motorsports is Ross Chastain's with McDonald's. Notice there's no McDonald's written on the car. They don't have to tell you what the giant M stands for. It's just a flex of their brand recognition. It's a thing. I'm no fashion expert, but I feel like I see it a lot in fashion. The point is, you don't have to be recognizable as long as you get the audience asking questions and saying, like, hey, that's a crazy car right there, and if they don't know what Red Bull is, they'll soon be Googling what the heck the car is saying. But from a design standpoint, I didn't like it. It was too noisy. But there's an element that we shouldn't discount, because I think it's really cool. If we go up close here, imagine that you're like in the garage area, or you're just seeing a tight camera shot of the car. If you're up close here, I think the main element is the bull and the number. That's the main thing you see, and the background is just a background, it's just noise. But then when you zoom out, suppose you're seeing like the car on the racetrack from far away, from miles away, and you can see just the giant letters, and your brain kind of fills in Red Bull for you. And I just think that's really powerful when a design hits you differently in different situations. When it hits you differently at different distances. It's like you have these different dimensions of focus that the design acts on depending on the situation you're in. I just think that's a really cool concept, and I really do wish that this concept worked a little bit better, because I would have ran with it, but unfortunately, yeah, too noisy. So I kind of did a reset in my brain. Believe it or not, I spent a long time figuring out how to do just this. Reset my brain. I looked on Google Images. I found this F1 livery somewhere here. It's a fictional livery where they just turned every color red. And I thought, hey, that red sun could be pretty cool. I was having trouble fitting that yellow sun in the design because the yellow was just so loud, and I was afraid to put it places. So I came up with this after I adjusted the sun to be red. And because the sun was red, I was now pretty unafraid to make it bigger on the car, just take up more real estate with it. And if you notice this line here, like I talked about with the F1 car, following the geometry of the car. I think NASCAR and stock car designers I think there are opportunities to do that more often than we do right now, because this, I was able to find a really sleek, beautiful line there, and I think there's a lot of other beautiful shapes you can find within the race car, and that's another thing to look for, I guess, when designing, when trying to come up with something unique. Just take a look at the shapes of the race car and follow those. That's one suggestion I would have. And so yeah, at that point I was unsure whether I would keep the red or the yellow and what I would do next for the design. So I did what you should always do when you're having a crisis like that, and just step away from it. Go to bed, wake up the next morning. And the next morning, I was kind of attracted to to the first design. I was looking at it in Car Viewer, and I was saying, there is a way to make this work. And this is what I came up with. My rationale was, I was seeing this kind of diagonal shape going from kind of the front wheel up the A-pillar. I was seeing that giant trapezoid-ish shape, and I was saying just adding a shape to the background of this could give it some structure that it needs to make a little more sense. And so I did that, and something a little unexpected happened. First of all, the color scheme I think works out really nice, because going back to the Red Bull can, the can itself, the Red Bull text is overlaid between an equal-ish background of blue and silver. And that's what this car does. If you go back to like all the motorsports stuff, it's either like all blue or all silver. There's not much of both. And so that could be a good, unique way to make this paint scheme stand out and have it be on brand for Red Bull. Another unexpected thing is, because this rear end text right here is on top of the silver a little bit, in my eyes, that actually kind of washes it out a little bit. It kind of makes it a little bit lighter because there's a little less weight to the Red Bull text now that the silver is behind it. Because there's less weight there now the sharp yellow and blue 23, it sticks out a lot more. It makes the number, I think it just makes the number work a little bit better, and so I ran with that. But I also liked the other design I came up with, so I ran with both of them. I finished them both up, and I decided to see which one I liked better by the end. And so here is final result number 1 and final result number 2. I'll just flip back and forth with them. Tell me in the comments, please do tell me which one you prefer. Me personally, I do prefer the more F1 inspired one. I just think it's a little sleeker, a little bit more a little simpler, just hits you harder because of the simplicity. But that's not to say that I don't like this one. I actually really do really like this one. It's very close between them. This one, I really love this idea where, I don't know, I just see lots of stripes going inward on it. You see that? All the stripes going inward from the top view. I think this angle looks really sweet. I think the number looks great from the right-hand side of the car. And on this one, from the top, very slender, very sleek, and just looks so fast. And again, this side looks pretty good. I just love that number font. I like the stickers plastered everywhere. Look. So the main takeaways from this experience that I would recommend to you: iterations, different versions of the paint scheme. Just, if you have an idea, just get it on the canvas, because you never know what you'll get out of it. Even if it's a failure, like this one, even if that's a failure, you still find some cool things within it. And maybe in the future, when you're designing a new paint scheme, you'll put that knowledge to use.